Dr. Otto Octavius, mollusk-themed madman and Marvel's superior mind.
Viktor, prodigy of the Undercity turned divine herald of the arcane.
These once-in-a-generation geniuses turned to technology to make a better world, free from the plights they were raised in, only to find themselves corrupted by the very thing they sought.
You already know who we are.
And we're here to research their strengths, speed, talents, and tech to find out who would win. Young Otto Octavius was a boy ahead by a century. While his classmates and peers would shove and bully him for his nerdier demeanor, Otto took it in stride, knowing one day he would change the world.
His father wasn't quite so understanding. Growing up in poverty, Otto's household was broken. Dear old dad would beat him for his weakness, and his mom never had the spine to stand up to him.
Eventually, though, his father's over-reliance on physical work would get the better of him, and he'd die in a construction accident. Otto wasn't exactly heartbroken to see him go.
With his mother in his corner, Otto would receive government backing in his own lab at an extremely young age, being personally enlisted to help in developing Cold War technologies.
Ironic, given Otto was horrified of nuclear weapons, though this fear would slowly turn into a subtle and quiet reverence for the power of the atom. Though he had grown tired of his assistants weighing him down, the snickers behind his back, the complaints of being overshadowed, and the demeaning nickname with which they branded him, Dr. Octopus. But he had to keep them around. After all, he only had so many arms.
And that's when the light bulb went off. Inspired by Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, Otto would design a harness of mechanical limbs that he could control with his thoughts, letting him operate and handle things far beyond the scope of other researchers.
He'd even eventually find love. That didn't last long. His mother, being one of those boy moms, couldn't bear the thought of another woman in Otto's life being more important and forced him to leave her. Though it wouldn't be long after that Otto then caught her in a relationship with another man.
Oh boy, Otto did not take kindly to that hypocrisy, and blew up in such a fit of rage at his mother for depriving him of love that his mother was sent into cardiac arrest from the shock of it all, and died.
Just like that, Otto was alone again. And it was this pain, this self-doubt and years of hardship all coming to a head that caused him to do something unthinkable for him. He made a mistake. For just a fraction of a second, his focus wavered in his work, and that's when everything went horribly wrong.
The radioactive material he was handling blew up in his face, a blast that would have killed someone. And it did.
Otto Octavius died that day. The man that regained consciousness, his harness melted into his skin, and now permanently interwoven with his brain, was someone new. Someone who would lead the world into a new era of progress, whether it wanted it or not. He would strike back at the world that had taken so much from the man he once was, and do it all under the name that his peers had once dared use to demean him. Dr. Octopus had been born.
Turns out those extending tentacles are good for more than just handling science stuff. They'd let Otto clash time and time again with his newfound foe, the masked menace himself, Spider-Man. Not only could he outpace and outmuscle the web-slinger, he could tear down walls, hurl train cars, and climb around New York. He'd even found the villainous Sinister Six to take down Spidey, though truly nothing could compare to his most evil act, marrying his arch-enemy's aunt.
By wrapping himself in the tentacles, he was even able to survive this massive nuclear explosion, which wiped out an entire island. If only he knew they could do that back when, well, you know.
Funny story, prior to that island incident, he had actually managed to degraft the tentacles from himself, only to have them regrafted in this blast. Dude cannot catch a break.
He'd eventually get it worked out. Though, make no mistake, Otto is far from helpless when he's not wearing his arms. He can telepathically control them over vast distances, able to operate and pilot them from miles away. And since he's constantly upgrading, he has dozens of different harness models, all of which he can control at once if he's so inclined.
Corny as it may sound, Doc's greatest weapon truly is his mind. Somehow, the tentacles are linked to him psychically, and are a part of him on a mental level, as much as his arms and legs. He's even able to feel pain through them. Seems like a design flaw right there.
His psyche is so well fortified that he could resist mind control from the villain Malice, who was able to control world-class telepaths like Emma Frost, though his tentacles are susceptible to hacking. At one point, he was even connected mentally to another villain, the Answer, and was able to dominate him so thoroughly through the link that he assumed control of both their bodies. He can even trap one's consciousness in the body it's occupying with a special wave disruption field.
His tentacles come with a variety of attachments, like saws and lasers, and are even coated in indestructible adamantium, letting him punch way above his weight. He's been able to manhandle and KO the Hulk with them, which is in line with other adamantium-clad characters like Wolverine.
His brilliance doesn't stop there. Even amidst his madness, he's still one of the greatest scientific minds on the planet, and has created his own robotic drones, the Octobots. They may be small, but they can still easily overwhelm people. Not to mention the mind control. His bots can even hijack the minds of the Avengers, or control whole hive minds of people at once by possessing the source. And Otto's got almost 6 billion of them!
Yep, sucks that Spidey still kept cleaning his clock. A lot. So much so that Doc was diagnosed with a fatal case of getting punched in the head too much, and didn't have long left to live.
And so, he enacted a final scheme with his ultimate weapon, the Octavian Lens, a satellite array above Earth that would harness the full, concentrated power of the sun, cooking the planet to death. Based on the effects the lens is described to have and the area it would be covering, such a weapon would be blasting the Earth with 1.6 teratons of TNT worth of energy. So much that it could blow away a small country if it was focused enough.
Though fortunately, the day was saved once more, and the now old and crippled Otto was wheeled away, and would be left to spend his last days in prison.
Except what actually happened was before he died, he sent out a golden Octobot that hunted down Spider-Man and swapped their minds. So, the old man dying in prison was actually Peter Parker, and the youthful Spider-Man was now Otto Octavius.
But Peter, had a plan, and would eventually Scooby-Doo his way back to Otto, and the pair would have a final showdown.
In which Spider-Man, Otto Octavius, would prevail, and Peter would die. However, he'd live on in the back of Otto's memories, and these buried thoughts would reform back into Peter himself. Somehow.
Otto then decided to prove his superiority once and for all, throwing down with Peter in the Mindscape, and winning. He had full control of the body with all of Peter's essence gone, but it was during this fight that something clicked for Otto. He was reminded of the boy he used to be, who wanted to help the world, and he saw everything Peter had been through, and he realized maybe he had been the villain this whole time, and this could be a fresh start.
Oh, he was still a complete asshole, of course, but he tried to do good. He really did, becoming the superior Spider-Man. He found a new life, new friends, a new love. He even thought of himself as Spider-Man, taking that form when he fought Peter in the mind prior. What was once a frail old man in a walking coffin was now a hero in his prime, weaving through beams of light and taking down supervillains. What started as a purely spiteful attempt to become the definitive Spider-Man slowly turned into a genuine try at carrying the mantle. Something which Otto knew he just wasn't cut out for.
Turns out, Peter's essence hadn't been entirely wiped out, because even Otto's own memories had him sew up. A lot. And from those memories, Peter regained form in Otto's mind, and Otto had a final realization.
He wasn't Spider-Man. He wasn't even sure if he was Dr. Octopus anymore. All he was Otto Octavius. But that was all he needed to be.
Through the turmoil and after all these years, he was ready to rest, and he gave Peter back the keys. And with that, Otto Octavius faded into memory, and finally died. It's comic, so he came back later because of status quo, but we don't need to talk about that.
And when he went quietly. No grand spectacle, just a passing of the torch back to its original holder. From prodigy to supervillain to hero, Otto had done the one thing he had always wanted to. He'd changed the world. But more importantly, he had changed the world inside himself.
It was my dream.
Sometimes, to do what's right, we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most. Even our dreams.
You're right.
Across the vast fantasy world of Runeterra, it was undeniable that the beating industrial heart of it all was the city of Piltover, a pristine and bustling city of progress, bringing tomorrow to today. And if you couldn't make it there, well, there was another side to the city.
The Undercity, an unending labyrinth of slums and sumps, a district only the most wretched would choose to stay in, and one that more often than not, the less fortunate found themselves stuck in, looked down on by the ivory spires across the bridge.
It was in this district that a boy named Viktor was born. In a place where every day was a fight for survival, Viktor had the distinct misfortune of being born with a permanently paralyzed leg, requiring a crutch from birth to even stand.
But while others saw a place of filth and grime, Viktor saw potential for something glorious. Never letting a disability get the best of him, Viktor studied and studied, all to one day find a way to help these people, until one day he became an anomaly. Someone from the Undercity who was not only accepted into Piltover itself, but someone who the city desired to have on their side.
In Piltover, Viktor thrived as an esteemed inventor, even becoming assistant to the Dean of the Academy, and that is where he thought his journey would conclude. But alas, this wasn't the case.
Enter Jace Tallis, an industrialist hammer maker on a quest to merge the arcane with technological after he was saved by a mage in his youth. Jace believed the secret to progress and the next step towards helping the world was to put magic in the hands of the population, and he believed his creation, a type of crystallized arcane energy, could power such a revolution, what he called Hex Tech.
Such practices were heavily taboo in Piltover, and Jace would find himself ostracized and ejected from the Academy for his practices by Dean Heimerdinger, who urged him to put safety first. Viktor, on the other hand, heard next step towards helping the world and decided to go all in on this project, going behind Heimerdinger's back to fully help Jace realize his ideas.
And to everyone's surprise, it worked. Hex Tech was a reality, and over the next few years, Jace and Viktor would act as partners to hone these technologies. They could do almost anything thanks to Hex Tech. Teleport things across the world, control technology, fire precise cutting lasers, let people hover, create force fields, or just blow shit up. It would culminate in Viktor's ultimate creation, the enigmatic Hex Core, which he would study night after night as the key to progress.
But one thing it couldn't do was help Viktor. His life of constant work and drive, combined with his disability, had finally caught up to him. He was dying, and wasn't getting any better, coughing up blood as he secluded himself away to try and find something, anything that would let him keep living. He had to, not for his own sake, but for the sake of all of the lives he could improve.
But anything he managed to heal or regrow with Hex Tech would just end up immediately withering and wilting, their bodies unable to withstand the transmutation. Viktor would turn to an Undercity black market drug, Shimmer, in a bid to extend his life, out of fear his discoveries would fade after his death.
And by some miracle, not only did this work, but when the Shimmer mingled with his exposure to the Hex Core, it even restored his leg. Viktor could stand, he could walk, but something about the Hex Core was strange, beckoning almost. A darker side that caught the attention of Viktor's lab assistant Skye, who, in an attempt to save the man she had been harboring feelings for this whole time from its influence, would intervene in his studies, only for the Hex Core to reduce her to ash on the spot.
Viktor was horrified by what his creation had led to, even almost committing suicide, if it wasn't for Jace sticking his nose in once again. He'd lived just long enough to attend a final council meeting, only to be caught in a terrorist attack. and that's when everything went from bad to worse.
In a desperate bid, Jace would merge the Hex Core into Viktor and return him from the brink of death. But something was different. Viktor was colder, more distant, and it wouldn't be long until he embarked on a pilgrimage to the Undercity, guided by Sky from an astral realm.
And it was here he discovered his true purpose, to be the Herald of the Arcane. All the power of Hextech was now one with him, and with a single touch he could cure anyone of their ailments, and he'd quickly build a commune of followers from those he had healed.
But sinister intent lay beneath Viktor's benevolent exterior. Anyone who accepted his healing would become almost single-mindedly devoted to him, and Viktor could directly take mental control of them at any time he deemed fit, though particularly resilient minds required much more extensive and dangerous work. This, to Viktor, was the true glorious evolution of mankind, a step into perfection, leaving behind the frailty and stresses that had affected him and so many others, where all could become one.
He would reach the apex of his evolution, becoming something more than human. A techno-organic replica of his laser-cutting hex claw would sprout from his back, his face split apart by a new mask-like one, and his body forever warped by magic.
And while all this happened to his body, his true self would reside in the astral realm, effectively immune to any damage his physical form sustained, while also being able to puppeteer every single one of his converts at once.
The time had come to bring the entire world into the fold of the glorious evolution. Viktor's power was terrifying. He could manipulate gravity, create storms, siphon power from enemies, and of course, utilize his signature Hextech Ray.
His power was even directly equated to the Rune Wars, a world-shaking event that wiped entire nations off the map. In one particular incident, enough land was completely annihilated that an ocean more than a day's travel away was now free to rush in, a feat worth 1.6 teratons of TNT.
The Hex Core could even send people across time and dimensions, including sending Jace to a timeline where Viktor won, and the entire world was barren. All its oceans dried up, and everyone left an unmoving, unthinking, perfect being in the clutches of the Herald.
Everyone but Viktor, who in this timeline had realized the error of what he'd done and the abject horror he had wrought. And so he set out, traveling timelines to find someone who could fix this. And he found Jace all those years ago. Viktor had been the mage from Jace's childhood, the catalyst for setting all of this into motion. And with this final knowledge, Jace returned to the present, determined to stop his partner.
So, in the astral realm of his own psyche, Jace spoke to the now godlike Viktor, seeing all the strings of his puppets. In here, time was effectively unmoving. Viktor's astral self having a whole conversation while the world outside remained frozen.
After all this time, all Jace wanted was his partner back, and Viktor believed him. Cracks formed in his perfection, and he saw the world that would become reality if he won. And so, Viktor stood down. As an equal, as a friend, he hugged Jace one final time, and by destroying the rune that Viktor had given him all those years ago, the pair disappeared into the ether together.
And so ended the story of Viktor, a man who changed Runeterra forever and realized almost too late that some line shouldn't be crossed. But not too late to fix it.
Viktor always thought the glorious evolution would be abandoning humanity, making everyone perfect, united, and efficient with no room for error. But in those final moments, when Viktor's mind cleared in the arms of his partner, he learned what it really was. The hope within all of us, and the simple drive even he held until the bitter end, to make the world a better place. Okay, the fighters are ready, the numbers are crunched, and it's time to run this.
Let's get ready for a deathmatch!
Can I, get you something, sir?
A sweet milk, if you would. I will not be here long.
I suggest you leave my vicinity. Don't.
You are a brilliant man, Octavius. But one who is dying. I bring...
You bring. Do you really think someone of my intellect requires the aid of a nitwit such as yourself?
Your intellect could be so much more, Doctor. Join me and our brethren in glorious evolution.
Fool! You cannot evolve upon my perfection, let alone compare me to these simpletons. Allow me to show you the frailty of your offer.
You misunderstand me, Doctor. I was not offering.
Fine then! The die is cast! I am your superior. I am Dr. Octopus.
You are a very sick man.
What?
You have much to learn, Doctor.
You owe. Even now you have to resort to feeding off my scraps.
Your technology is astounding, Otto.
Of course it is, idiot! I made it! Benevolence. How painfully human of you.
I can assure you, I am much more. And I know you can be too.
I need not be more, when I am already the apex of evolution. Let's see how far your help gets you now.
Yes, let's.
Bah! Do you really think this paltry aid can stop me? Well, I'll be. Fight your own battles, coward!
This need not be a battle at all, Doctor.
Bah! This incessant preaching of yours is good for one thing at least. It gives me time to get warmed up. All units, match my coordinates. The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
You would so quickly snuff both our lives.
Who said anything about mine?
These are connected to you. I I sense your mind within every inch of your creation, Doctor. And so that means...
What? I will not fall for such meager deceit.
This is no deceit, Doctor. It is the promise of tomorrow. Embrace it.
You dare bring the fight to the realm of the mind? Fool! Here, I am absolute.
It cannot be.
Here, I am supreme. Here, I am superior. Enough said. Where's that confidence now? Tell me, do you still think I need help? That I need saving? No!
Doctor, allow me to show you the plights of this world. What our kin go through in their flawed lives.
Wait. No. It can't be.
Your father.
What are you? No. No!
We will meet again, Doctor.
I'll remember this when that day comes! You hear me?
No, you won't. You will do great things, Otto Octavius. This is my promise. The promise of tomorrow.
It is time for you to embrace it.
Well, guess life isn't going on and on and on anymore.
Befitting of these two geniuses, this match was a fascinating one to look into. It's surprisingly involved, so let's break it down into 4 categories: power, speed, mind, and abilities.
Let's start with their raw firepower. For Otto, those tentacles definitely gave him an edge when it came to purely physical stuff. Flipping an oncoming train requires some serious lifting, and his tentacles were tough enough to withstand an island-leveling explosion.
However, that sort of strength pales when compared to the power of the Hex Core. Viktor was directly stated to be on par with events that could wipe out whole countries, way beyond the scale Otto operates on.
Though Otto did have one thing that could potentially match that level of power: the Octavian lens, though it's questionable if he'd even be able to use it.
The lens required extensive setup and preparations to operate, and Otto never even got to use its full power, let alone focus all its yield into one place. However, for the sake of debate, let's say he could.
This still at best lets him match Viktor's baseline strengths with a single specific move, and even then, for fairness, let's consider another what if.
Right. Recall how in the future that Viktor destroyed, the oceans had been wiped away. Assuming this was done through Viktor's power via evaporation, and that Runeterra has a similar water content to Earth, that would require the equivalent of over 120 petatons of TNT. 75,000 times stronger than the Octavian lens's hypothetical concentrated output.
No matter how you look at it, Viktor blows Otto out of the water in power, with Otto's best case scenario only being one specific weapon that could match him. Point for Viktor. Though this doesn't matter as much as you might think, given Otto's adamantium tentacles could bypass that gap entirely.
In a similar but opposite instance, speed favors the Doctor. For all his might, Viktor doesn't really have great showings of speed. Sure, you could say he could perceive the world as frozen while in the mindscape, but this hardly affects his actual combat capabilities. Otto, meanwhile, could dodge beams of light, requiring relativistic levels of speed, letting him lock down the advantage here. Though, just like Otto's adamantium being able to bypass the strength gap, Viktor's resilience against physical attacks helps him out here and prevents him from getting immediately blitzed down.
Though mind stuff is where things get interesting. While both are genius inventors, Viktor hasn't displayed feats of brilliance like Otto has. Viktor's main creation, the Hex Core, was created by building off of pre-existing work, and the ability to grant it him from channeling the arcane. Otto, meanwhile, had all his tech homegrown. His tentacles, the Octavian lens, mind control devices, 6 billion robots, the list goes on. Not to mention his clear edge in combat experience, having been doing this for decades.
However, Viktor has his own advantage here. Otto, for all his brilliance, is often prone to letting his ego get the best of him, playing with his food and drawing out encounters to assert his superiority and whatnot. Viktor, on the other hand, having evolved past human emotion, would be much likelier to play optimally right out the gate without letting those same things cloud his decisions. It's ultimately a toss-up between Otto's book smarts and experience against Viktor's much more pragmatic nature, so it's safest to call this category a tie.
Meaning, it's going to come down to their abilities and technology. For starters, Viktor's use of mind control, and by extension evolution, aren't working on Otto. Ark's been able to resist mind control from much more potent telepaths, and even mind control people back. And we've seen before that Viktor can struggle with more violent minds.
Now, that being said, it's unlikely Otto could control Viktor either. He's been shown to have extended struggles against people in the mindscape to exert full control, meaning it wouldn't provide him an instant win, and Viktor would be free to simply bail out. Otto could theoretically keep Viktor's consciousness trapped in his body to force the fight out of him, but he'd have to have somehow anticipated this in advance, as it's not like he can exactly turn the field on once he's in there.
Even if he did, Viktor has ways to shut it down, such as his ability to control technology, or having the Evolved deal with any pesky projectors. Though, in a mass combat, the Evolved would be completely swarmed by Octobots. Seriously, I can't overstate how ridiculous 6 billion is.
But that same technology manipulation shuts down effectively all of Otto's options, Octobots and tentacles included. Especially with his ability to process the world as frozen, Viktor would have no problem shutting down or hijacking Otto's tech, something we know is an effective counter.
From there, it was as easy as Viktor's being able to blow Otto away. Even without technology manipulation, Viktor's flight and gravity control would let him easily keep Otto pinned down and vulnerable. Hell, nothing would stop Viktor from just throwing Otto into a dead dimension and leaving him there.
Dr. Octopus was never going to go down easy, and he had the speed, intellect, and arsenal to prove it. But Viktor's sheer power, deific abilities, and mastery of technology let him prove that he had reached the superior state of evolution.
I mean, it makes sense. The guy's name is literally Viktor. Now then, who wants takoyaki?
This match's winner is Viktor.
not supposed to lose. Let me see the script.
Get on with it!